Okay, we are live. Welcome. I'll see if people might join as we get going. I'm just going to dive right in. And then if you guys have questions, you know how I think most of you have been here before. But just in case you don't have not been, my name is Lisa. I'm the nutritionist here at Raw Generation, and I host these live webinar calls once every month, 1 p.m. the first Wednesday Eastern time of every month. It's a time where I come with a topic that I think is important, that maybe you have questions about or that you would be interested to know about. And then the rest of the call is just an open Q&A, kind of a forum. You can ask questions about products. You can ask questions about general nutrition or health, or just tips about your diet, things like that. Anything that I have an area of expertise in, I'm happy to give you my point of view. So, and that's the best part of the calls, in my opinion, when the conversation starts opening up and we start having questions and sharing. I feel like people kind of start to open up when they hear one person ask questions. Everyone kind of realizes they have questions. And so anyway, today's topic is a little bit more meaty, so it'll be a little bit of a longer conversation. And I'll stop every so often to see if you have questions about the topics as I'm going, because it's a little, like I said, a little more in depth than usual. And today's topic is all about hormones and weight gain, especially hormonal weight gain for women over 40. I've had more than one of you in the Juice Club express this. I always ask if you have topics you want me to cover to email me, and some of you have asked me to talk about this. So enough of you that I decided to talk about it today. So I avoided it a little bit because I didn't want to ostracize the men in the group, but the reality of it is like 96% of our customers are females. So most of you want to hear about this. So, so first off, what causes hormonal shifts? Now, there could be two reasons. Well, there's multiple reasons, but the two main times when that happens, and it could be lifestyle related. So if you are regularly abusing one area of your lifestyle, that could be your sleep, it could be your diet, it could be your stress management, it could be exercise or lack thereof, or overdoing exercise. It could be all of these different things. That could upset your hormones regardless of your age, regardless of your gender. Hormones are very, very sensitive things, of everything in our body that's resilient, and we have amazing bodies that can overcome a lot of things. Hormones definitely are sensitive, and the repercussions that we feel when they're out of whack are many. And lots of times we don't even realize that something we're going through is hormone related. And it's not just hormones like mood swings during your monthly cycle. There's other hormones involved in your body, and there's other things that affect your metabolism. It could be growth hormones in children. It could be your brain functioning. A lot of things are tied into hormones. So that's the one part of lifestyle. And the other part is just our age, especially as women, but men also too. It changes for men, but for women especially, as we get older, our progesterone and our estrogen drop. We can't avoid it. It happens no matter what you do. And that starts to happen. When that starts to happen, that's when our bodies go through what's called perimenopause. Now, that can start in women as young as 38 or 40. It can start later. It's a 10 to 12 year usually period prior to menopause. So even if you're at the stage in life where you just had young kids, you're nowhere near the menopause years, you could be experiencing symptoms of this hormonal fluctuations, and not really putting two and two together that it could be that you're starting perimenopause. Or it could be the things that happen as a result of that time of your life when you are raising young children, or you are getting less sleep, or you are more stressed at your job if you are not. Like I said, hormones are sensitive. So symptoms, if you're not sure if what you're experiencing, some of the things you might be facing are hormone related. The biggest hitters are belly fat. So it's the fat that comes around your midsection that you don't always have an explanation for why it's there, or you feel like you used to be able to drop it really quickly, maybe even a few years ago, but now you can't drop it so quickly. That's a result of cortisol elevated, directly related to your hormone balance. That's one symptom rather. Insomnia is a symptom, or where you guys used to be able to fall asleep as soon as you hit the pillow, now you can't, or maybe you can fall asleep easily, but you wake up in the middle of the night for whatever reason, you can't go back to sleep. That's a symptom. General low energy. Lots of times it's unexplained, but if it is, even with an explanation, the energy that feels like you're just having to really push yourself, rely more on maybe caffeine or stimulants if you've taken those before, just feeling less motivated in general than you normally would feel, or having less energy to get through the day, or you might be noticing those slumps in the afternoon more prominently than you have in the past. Mood swings, I mean, as women, we've dealt with this most of this of our lives probably, but I mean, more so than you're used to. Unexplainable mood swings is part of it. And then also something that I have found with a lot of my girlfriends in their mid 40s, they're noticing changes to their skin and the hair texture specifically. Either their hair feels like it's thinning or it feels not so smooth. They're noticing their skin might not be quite as smooth, also not quite as lustrous. And then that's when like you get hit with all these, do your skincare routine and do your serums. I mean, like it's just there's reasons why those things are changing, and the main reason is usually a hormonal shift in your body. So regardless of it, I just said that it's going to happen whether you want to or not. These hormones are going to lessen. Even if they do, though, you can counteract that. And the number one tool is actually to get ahead of it. So I'm not sure the ages of everyone in this group. Some of you might be already beyond the point of being able to counteract it. But if you are in your late 30s or your early 40s, even your mid 40s, and you're not experiencing a ton of the symptoms, maybe just one or two, or maybe not even any yet, that's when you have to start to act. That's when you really can make a major difference for like 5 or 10 years from now, where it's going to be that much harder if you haven't done the work earlier. And that means getting your diet on track, changing your lifestyle, changing your habits. And I'll talk about these all individually in a little bit in more detail. And if you are already beyond that point, if you're already in your mid 40s plus, and you're noticing some things that you don't like, and maybe you feel out of control, or you feel like just like you're a different person and you don't know how to navigate it because the things you used to do don't work anymore. That's when, and people don't like to hear this. I will tell you that in my practice as a nutritionist for 20 years, the majority of my clients were two people: autoimmune disorder people that didn't know where else to turn, that needed help. I'm a holistic nutritionist, so everything I do is more alternative, or women in their perimenopause years or menopause years that cannot lose weight. So I feel like I'm a specialist in those two areas because I've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of people with those kinds of problems. So what you're probably not going to like me to say, but is the truth, is that if you're in that phase, and for whatever reasons, either the things that you tried to do, or maybe you didn't try to do things to get yourself in a spot where you wouldn't be so frustrated now, is you have to stay on a regimen and stay on it strictly. So as you know, if you've been here before, I'm usually not the like strict regimen kind of person. I'm like the 80-20, have your lifestyle, do your this. You can do those things, but just realize that with your hormones specifically, and especially as a woman in that age bracket from like 45 to 55, I would say, there's not a lot of wiggle room for you, like there's been for you in your life prior, and like there will be in your life again later. There's just not a lot of wiggle room if your goal is to maintain a certain weight or to mitigate the symptoms that you're having. And I'm sorry to say it, but it's just the truth of it. And it's what I've discovered. It could be something as simple as a client would have done I used to do cleanses with my clients long before I worked for this company, different type of cleansing. And I would have a client do that was not in those years, and they would lose 5 or 8 pounds in a week and start their programs feeling great. Meanwhile, if I put a woman on that same exact program and she's 47 or 52 years old or something, it would maybe she'd lose 1.5 pounds if she was lucky. And that is a win for someone in that age bracket. It's a win to lose any weight at that time. It's very, very difficult to counteract it once you're in that phase. So what I'm saying is you take the small wins and you stay regimented, and you'll eventually get there. You will get there. I think I should write a book about this sometimes, because I've seen it so many times, and how people, if you just stay the course, it does happen, just doesn't happen quickly anymore. So even if you do like our cleanses, for example, they're phenomenal for people in any phase of life. You might not lose the 7 or 8 pounds you might have lost the last time. Maybe you'll only lose 1 to 2 pounds, but that is a win. It's a win for you. So before I get into more details, any questions or comments at this point, or things that you want me to cover? I know at least one person here that I saw asked me about this topic specifically for last time. So is there anyone else that has any specific concerns? Okay. Daily habits, like I mentioned. So it's not just diet. Obviously, diet is my specialty, and I'll talk about that in much more detail towards the end. But there are other habits that majorly impact your hormonal balance, and therefore impact everything else: your weight, your energy, your insomnia, your mood swings, your hair, your skin, blah, 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 blah. And the first is your sleep. I talk about this first because I struggle with the most. I think everyone has something they struggle with, and sleep is definitely my main struggle, because I do have such high energy that I can function on very little sleep, and I do it on a regular basis. And I know it's not good for me, and I know I'm going to pay that price if I don't change it soon. So I make a very concerted effort to try to change that. But what you are looking to be able to do, and I would say this is the first thing you should try to change if you are struggling and don't know where else to turn. I would do this before anything else. Change your sleep cycle. The hours before midnight are your most restorative hours of sleep. That's when your body does the most repair work, and they're the most important to bring your body back into homeostasis and balance. So I'm in a room, so there's a phone here, different place than I usually am. But if you can get yourself sleeping at like 10 p.m., say, and up by 6 or 6:30, that is ideal. A 10 to 6 wake and sleep cycle is amazing. Now, for me, I'm barely starting to get tired before 11:30 at night. So I'm lucky if I get to bed at 12 or 1. So I'm really working on that. But if you can get to yourself in bed between 9 and 10 and up naturally, this is the key. You want to get to a point where you're waking up naturally without an alarm and without feeling exhausted. Then you know you found your sweet spot for sleep. And there's another way you can tell too. If you take notice, like actually take strategic notice of your sleep habits, of your tired habits. Like if you're in the evening at your house, when do you start yawning? What time of day do you start feeling like, oh, if I lay down right now, I could fall asleep? For me, 1,000%, that's 9:30 every night. And I know that's when I'm really supposed to be going to sleep, and I always push through it, and I don't. So if you take notice of those cues from your body, when you actually start to feel genuinely tired and try to actually sleep at that time and do it consistently, your whole everything will change. I can say this with authority, even though I'm telling you I don't do this now. I have done this many times in my life. There have been times in my life where I've conquered this and done it for a long time, and it is life altering in a positive way. The energy you have in the morning is always going to be better than what you think you can do at nighttime and push through. It's better. You wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning, you conquer the world. Your day is like half done by 8 and 9 in the morning. You've done like more than most people had done before they even got out of bed. So, try that first. It makes a major difference with your hormones. And it also majorly helps your cortisol production. It lowers your cortisol production. That is belly fat. So if belly fat is your struggle, sleep is your number one thing to conquer before diet or anything else. It is their sleep. Number 2 is exercise. So exercise at this phase of your life is a double-edged sword. You need to do it, but you don't want to overdo it. If you overdo it, the same cortisol gets produced as if you're sleeping poorly. It's like a stress release. So you don't want to overdo the exercise and make your body produce more cortisol. You want to have less cortisol. So exercises like Pilates, walking, calisthenics, of course, aerobics, you can do all that kind of stuff. You just want to be careful that you're not like overdoing it. Like, so like the HIIT training, for example, I used to love HIIT workouts. I injured myself, so I couldn't do them. And I thought I would never feel in shape again. And I will tell you that now I have done consistent low cortisol Pilates workouts for 2 years. I have never been more toned or more lean in my life than I am right now, which is pretty crazy because I'm at those ages where you didn't think you would, where I would be. And I am. My diet has not changed at all. I'm exactly the same. And I've never been as fit as I am now. And I used to do intense kickboxing and HIIT training. And I could do it with the best of them, So there's something to be said for working with your body instead of against it without even realizing it. Really what it is consistency, and doing it not when you're tired, doing it when you naturally having the energy to do it or work out well and with good form, as opposed to like, I don't know about you guys, but like I would, if I didn't feel like I was sweating and like killing myself, I felt like I wasn't worth the time of me doing a workout. So that was like a me problem that once I overcame that I honestly didn't do it because I wanted to. I did it because I had no choice because I hurt myself. So when I did it unknowingly, it like literally changed so much of my life. It changed my mental state, my stress levels, and definitely my body. I mean, I've always been slender since I changed my diet, but the muscle tone that I have now is like unlike anything I've ever seen in my life before as an adult. So number 3 is your stress management. So, we're all stressed or women, right? So most of us are double, triple, quadruple multitasking all the time with jobs and families and all the stuff that comes along with just being a woman in general. So I know, like, I can't say go journal your thoughts and go find your zen, or, you can do whatever things that you do that work for you. But if you don't find a way to manage your stress, it's going to manage you. It's going to end up causing you problems. So whether that is your workout, whether that's finding a little quiet space in your day, even if it's 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, or mentally learning how to act instead of react, do the work, whatever that work is for you, to try to manage your stress, because that's another major offender. There's a book called Deadly Emotions that I read a long time ago by Dr. Don Colbert, and that was super eye-opening to me, because what he did was he tied our emotions to like the actual organs it affects in our bodies and the conditions that it can cause over time, like what chronic guilt can cause in our bodies physically, how it manifests physically, what anger can cause, what chronic sadness, or alternately happiness. Like it's really amazing how things are also intricately connected in our bodies. So I always try to keep that in the back of my mind. Like if I'm really struggling with something, I try to to genuinely let it go, because I know it's going to make me unhealthy. It makes your immune system down. It makes you more prone to getting sick. So, and lastly, and this is a bigger daily habit, and I've talked about this before. You might bring up more questions. The chemicals you surround yourself with, without meaning to, in your life, are super influential on your hormonal balance. So our hormones, like I said, are very sensitive. Some people are more so than other people, but there are for everyone, whether you think that you are or not. So there are like an immense amount of chemicals that we're exposed to every day, endocrine disruptors, all kinds of things that are in our personal care products and in our cleaning products. So I know that's not like our wheelhouse of our generation, but if you're trying to be healthier, it's definitely part of what your lifestyle should be looking at some point. So we could do a much more in-depth look at this. If you guys have interest in this, let me know. I have so much information about this because I've studied this for a long time as well, about things you put on your skin and things you clean with, because when you breathe those chemicals in, or you put them on your skin. I mean, our skin is our biggest organ. It absorbs anything you put onto it within 20 minutes. It's in your bloodstream. It's crazy. And I think in general, we don't think about that I mean, it's becoming more common thanks to like Instagram and stuff, that people are looking at their products. But however, just like with food, like I tell you with food labels, you have to really understand, and this is a whole different ballgame, understand personal care product labels, because they greenwash those just like they greenwash our food labels. So that they'll like call out gluten-free and fat-free from the rooftops and to make it think you think it's a healthy food. It's nothing close to a healthy food. They do the same exact thing with like deodorant. Oh, paraben-free, must be healthy deodorant. It's not. There's still junk in there. So you have to really like learn or find a source that you trust about this. Now, I'll tell you, I am not a master understander of all the different ingredients in personal. I know some of them that I would definitely never put on my skin. However, there's a like an authority that I trust. It's actually an influencer on Instagram. I followed her for many, many years. Her handle is Low Tox Lily, Lily. If you're on Instagram and you have interested in this area, follow her, because she knows the ins and the outs like no one I've ever seen. And she will look at any label for you. You can message her, even though she has a ton of followers. And if you can send her a screenshot of any label that you have, and she will tell you right there what's good and bad in it. I lean on her. Like if I don't know about something for myself, I lean on her. Not for the cleaning products particularly, but for anything like makeup and cream and toothpaste, all that kind of stuff. So those are the 5 things. Sleep, 4 things. Sleep, exercise, stress, and chemical exposure. That's all before diet. So before I get into diet, any other questions about all the things I just rambled? We are a quiet group so far tonight.
I have a question regarding sleep. I've been on a really odd schedule, kind of starting my work around 4 or 6 p.m. and working until about 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. So does your body like adjust to that? I mean, does it know when 10 o'clock is and 6 a.m. is, or because I work better at night when things are quiet?
That's a good question. I lived that life for many years. I had my own business, and it was a food business, and I worked overnights to do it. And I definitely feel better now that I don't do that physically, even with the same amount of hours sleep. But that being said, that's kind of like a circadian rhythm question. It's not so much my area of specialties. However, I think it really is more about the quality of the hours you get. So if you're getting still a 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, even if it's not the hours that the rest of the world is getting, I believe, look it up, but I'm pretty sure that your body's circadian rhythms will follow. Like I think your body will adjust to that, and that will become your new normal, as long as you're not getting if you're not compensating by getting only a couple hours sleep because it's like daytime and people are awake and you want to be awake with them. If you're still being like regimented and getting basically the same hours of sleep every night, I think it's really about the regiment, about always doing like going to bed around the same time, getting up around the same time, getting the same amount of hours. I believe that's what makes your hormones more stable.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I just saw a question come in. Lori, is this my friend Lori? Curious. Can you repeat the IJ handle? Who can help with possibly? I'll write it right here.
Yes. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm
Well,
good. How are you?
aren't you sad about the beach club being over? Hmm. Lori and I
Perfect. Thank
ourselves
you.
found her through these calls, and she goes to my beach club. Who'd have knew? Who'd have known? I just put it in the chat, the handle.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome. Um, and also, you know what? I'll put in. I've shared this girl with you guys before. These are the low cortisol workouts that I do. Caroline Diesler, I love her workouts. I mean, she's like a ex model. You can tell she struggled with like anorexia and stuff when she was younger, but her recipes are on point, and her workouts, they seem like they're going to be super easy, and they're going to be like, especially if you're a person that works out a lot, you're like, this is not going to do anything for me. They do, trust me. So, okay. Any other questions before food? Okay. Okay, so obviously this is more my wheelhouse, so I have more to say probably here. Foods to include, foods to exclude or avoid, and how to eat the ones that you do include. So this is similar to what you've heard me say before. However, there are a couple adjustments that I make for women in this age bracket, of things that you have to be a little more, well, or a lot more careful of than in the past. I'm going to give you an example. One time I had a client who was doing everything I said to the letter, or so I thought. She even journaled her food for me. I looked at her food logs every week. I could not figure out what this woman's problem was, that she couldn't drop any weight, because it just was not making. I had to go for more blood work to see if her thyroid or pituitary gland was off. Like, I just could not figure her out. Only to find out that she was not writing. I'm saying this to point out how one little thing can make a big difference in this phase of your life as a woman. She never told me that in her smoothies every day, she was adding flaxseed oil to them for the omega fats, which are a good thing for women. She had read that omega fats were healthy for women that age and blah, blah. But she never told me she was putting them in her morning smoothie. So now if you've been here before, you know my whole fruit and fat not mixing spiel. If you haven't been here, I'll repeat it for you later. Just ask me. And once I started saying, I want you to put the ingredients now of everything on your list because something is not computing. And when I saw that, I was like, holy cow, take the flaxseed oil out, let's see what happens. And I kid you not, by the next week, she was down 3.5 pounds. She had done this for like 2 months without budging an inch. And that one thing made that huge of a difference. So I say this because that's the difference between a woman when they're 30 and a woman when they're 40 or 45. Your body is just different with how it processes things. I don't have the answer for why that is. I just know that it is the case. So being very, very specific and regimented is a key in this situation. So the foods to avoid are the typical culprits that you probably know for the most part, but I'm going to go through them anyway in case you don't. Obviously, fried foods. No one should eat these ever. So I'm just going to leave that there. Seed oils. If you've been here before, you've heard me talk about seed oils. If you haven't been here before, these are in almost all processed foods. You have to read your labels. You're going to see things that look like sunflower oil. It looks healthy, sounds healthy. It is the opposite of healthy. Cottonseed oil, sesame oil, all the things. Canola oil, they say is healthy. It's the opposite of healthy. These are probably the number one worst thing for women because they're a heated oil, they're chemically changed fat, and our bodies cannot process them, so we store them. And that is what causes extra, that's the difference between being able to tone the space under your arms and not being able to. That stuff that hangs there, that is that being stored. It's all that excess fat that our body can't process being stored. So start to read your labels and cut out the seed oils. It's not the easiest thing to do. I'm not pretending like it's the easiest thing to do. It makes a difference in your life. If you're going to, use oil, use extra virgin cold pressed olive oil. You can also use cold pressed avocado oil. Like there's products that I told you guys before, the Primal Kitchen products are good examples. They have no seed oils in them. If you want to make your own, so much the better. If you have questions about seed oils, that's a more bigger conversation too. We can also talk about that at the end. Conventional, and I highlight conventional dairy and meat products. So obviously we are a plant-based company. I am not advocating eating an all plant-based diet necessarily. I think there's a place for really high quality animal products if you want to have them in your diet, especially in this age. But the quality is the key. If you're going to buy conventional dairy and meat from the regular store, I would tell you to stay far, far away from it during these years because they are packed they're pumped with hormones that the farmers put in these cows and these chickens and turkeys. And those hormones are in there and you're eating them and they negatively affect yours. It's proven. It's not like some conspiracy. It's proven. So if you're going to choose to eat meat, poultry, eggs, dairy, you have to choose to also be able to spend the extra money in that one area of your life before other places regarding to your food. Like if you have to choose where you can afford to spend a little more in this situation, if you're trying to reach a goal and you're at this age of your life, choose to be the dairy and meat quality that you can get. Get grass-fed, grass-finished beef, free-range, organic eggs, corn and soy-free feed. You have to dig to find these. They exist. I use them all the time. They definitely exist. You might have to spend a little more. You might have to order online. You might have to go to a specialty store to get them. This is one area that makes a huge difference in the quality of your food. Yes, I'm pro-organic foods. Yes, I believe in like not to have everything organic all the time. Dairy and meat at this phase of a woman's life and also in children's lives. So I'll just say that too. Two very tender places where your hormones are extra sensitive. You should not have any conventional dairy or meat. So I'll leave it there. The other obvious culprits: refined sugar, refined flour, artificial sweeteners. Now, this is something that people don't always realize. If I say this, but doesn't always compute either. Artificial sweeteners or foods that are like sugar-free, fat-free, low-fat and marketed that way, that are not naturally that way, stay far away from them as well. You don't want fat-free half and half. You don't want fat-free jello. You don't want sugar-free cookies. You want none of those things unless they're made from just like whole food ingredients and just don't have anything sweet in them, which that's usually very rarely the case. You don't want healthy junk foods like gluten-free cookies that are like, they're not for you guys to have. I know that's like stinks. And if you're a snacker, it really stinks. They will definitely mess you up when it comes to this phase of your life. So a snack for you would be like making the popcorn I told you about in the past, something whole food, super clean like that. Or, snack on a big bowl of grapes. Not the same as having cookies, I know, but like if you want to feel and look a certain way, these are the places where there's not a lot of wiggle room. Like I was saying, not a lot of wiggle room for you. But definitely stay away from like the fat-free half and halves and the creamers and the like skim milks and stuff that if you're in diet culture most of your life, you're conditioned to buying those things. They're the worst possible thing for really anyone, but especially for women in their 40s and 50s. The worst possible thing, because those chemicals in those foods literally do the opposite of what you want them to do. The diet soda is worse for you to have than the regular soda when it comes to how it affects your hormones. So, any questions about all that? No one ever likes when I tell them those things. I don't know. Bonnie says I'm breaking up. Am I breaking up for anyone else but her, or is it her computer? It's normal to my end.
Oh, you sound fine.
Okay, Bonnie, I think it must just be you. Hey, Lynn, can you recommend some sort of snack while doing the 3-day juice cleanse? Sometimes I just need to chew on something. Yeah, and actually, if you go to your cleanse guide that is on the website, you can look up our guides and instructions, and you can digitally download it, or it comes in your box as well. There's a guide in there. There's all kinds of snacks and things you can eat when you cleanse, and that also goes, yeah. Not so much in this conversation, but yes, it definitely goes with what you can eat. The best things to snack on are raw fruits and vegetables always. You can also have plain baked potatoes or sweet potatoes, or plain steamed vegetables. Those are the best options for when you're cleansing if you don't want to impede your weight loss results. Stephanie, thank you for joining. I'm glad you were able to come. Okay, so before we get to other questions that are not related to this topic, is there anything else related to this topic about the food specifically first before I go into what to include? You're welcome.
I have one question. Somebody mentioned about a window of eating. I saw this on social media. Somebody mentioned about eating within a window. And then they also went as far as saying water, like don't drink water consistently throughout the day, limit it, because it somehow makes your body produce insulin. So you want to limit how much you're drinking. Like I said, this was social media. This is what somebody who is into health hacks and things like that mentioned. But I was kind of surprised what he said about the water. You can't continually to drink it throughout the day because it will make your insulin spike and crash.
Well, that is news to me, my friend. I have never heard of water causing insulin spikes or crashes. I don't actually believe that to be true, but without me like digging in myself and finding where he got that from, I don't want to 100% say that that's the case. But in all my years of schooling, I've never ever heard that in my life. So I never have prescribed that. The eating in a window, that's basically intermittent fasting. There's benefit to that if you do it properly and not too restrictively. It's good to break the fast gently always of any day, whether you're, with like light fruits, juices, water, fruits, tea, whatever. And it's good in general not to eat super late when you're in this phase of life. I've always told you guys you don't have to worry about eating late at night, and you don't if you eat the right foods most of the time. However, if you're choosing the wrong foods and you're having them late, that's a recipe for disaster. So yeah, yes, for the eating in a window, if you want intermittent fast, or eat obviously if you can get down to eating just a couple meals a day and making them really nutrient dense and not having to, I don't really prescribe to the whole like eating little things all day long. I have never found that to work for me and my weight issues in my life when I was younger. I definitely do better when I have meals. And I also do better when I don't eat when I'm not hungry. So, as you guys have been here before, I don't believe in having a big breakfast unless you're starving or something. I don't believe in it. It's not good for your body. Most people do not wake up famished and want to have a big 4-egg breakfast. I believe in having heavier foods later in the day and eating lighter foods throughout the day. Whether you do that within an eating window or you do that within the entire span of a day is your choice. But yeah, and as far as the water and insulin, I will look into that for you. And if you come to the next call, I'll have some kind of an answer for you about that. But that would actually shock me. I can't understand any chemical or biological reason that would be the case.
I think he mentioned too about putting lemon
What's that?
in it.
You cut out, so I'm not sure what you just said.
Having water with lemon in it. I think he might have been referring to that too, like not just water, but water with like a real lemon in it.
Right. Yeah. To me, this grasping at a straw that I don't think has weight to it. I don't want to speak 100% without looking into it a little more deeply, but that would be news to me. That was the case.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else about foods to avoid before I go into foods to include? Okay. Foods to include to better balance your hormones. I already talked about the organic piece. I'm going to bring that into the fruit and vegetable piece. If you can afford during this span of your life to eat more organic fruits, vegetables, dairy, meat, it's better for you because less chemicals. At the very least, non-GMO is a great way to go. Less chemicals, the better all around. You obviously want to maximize your raw fruits and vegetables as much as you can. Eating a high raw diet, high raw lifestyle is what I've always recommended for a million years, and even more so now. So high raw meaning keeping your day with as much raw fruits and vegetables as possible and limiting how much of the cooked food you're having. You can eat them, but limiting them. Instead of thinking you have to have something cooked at every meal, think about having something raw at every meal. Start your day with juices, make a smoothie, have fruit, have your lunch be a nice light salad with some fruit, or maybe like a potato with it or something, not super like fried or cooked. Have your dinner be vegetables, steamed, dry roasted, whatever vegetables, a whole grain, and a lean protein if you want to have protein, but also have something raw with it too. Have a sliced cucumber on the side, have a sliced bell pepper on the side. Those raw enzymes help you digest the cooked enzymes. I've always told you guys this. Focus more on getting raw fruits and vegetables. And number 1 for the fiber, number 2 for the enzymes. Your body will need those enzymes more to process food. The older you get, the more enzymes you get, the better your body will be able to process food because our bodies get less and less able to properly absorb and process foods as we get older. I already mentioned the high quality meats, eggs, and dairy. Those foods, it wasn't like if you want to eat these foods, this is the better way to do it, which is true. But these foods actually can be really beneficial to you during this phase of life because of the nutrients that are in them. They're super nutrient dense. Like an organic, pastured, corn and soy free fed egg is amazing for you during this phase of your life. You don't have to have just one. You can have 2 or 3 or 4. I mean, they're not gonna. It's been long ago proven false about the whole cholesterol claims with eating eggs. That was like a whole thing years ago. But if a lot of people still believe that because it hung on like a whatever, but not true. The yolk of an egg is probably one of the most nutrient dense things on the planet. And it's not just eggs. I mean, grass-fed, grass-finished beef is full of amazing nutrients for your body too. I don't recommend eating like a carnivore diet or eating a lot of them, but having them a few times a month in an ideal portion with a bunch of fruits and stuff. I mean, a bunch of vegetables, and potatoes or whole grains, whatever, I think can be really amazing for you and can help you balance your hormones as opposed to the opposite. Raw fats are really important to include during this phase of life, but the key is when and how you eat them. I say raw fats because it's not the same case if you have cooked fats. So you've heard me talk about cooked oils before, probably if you've been here. But even like nuts and seeds, they should not be dry roasted or roasted in oil. Raw pumpkin seeds, raw cashews, like we use in our smoothies, for example. They should not be toasted or heated in any way, shape, or form, because then it's not going to benefit you. It's almost going to that be detrimental for you and your weight. And even these foods, they should not be like, you shouldn't keep a thing of seeds and nuts like trail on your desk and pick on it all day long. You're asking to gain weight if you do that. Even though it's healthy as far as like health food goes, it's not good for you and your metabolism at this stage of your life. If you want to have nuts or seeds, it should be a small amount sprinkled onto a salad or like blended into a dressing. They're never a snack. They should never be a snack for you. Even though they're healthy, I highly recommend that you never ever snack on them. It will only do the opposite of what you want them to do. But having them is not bad. That should actually be beneficial to you if you just do it in the right amount and the right time of day. It should always be your last meal of the day when you have these healthy fats. So that's extra virgin olive oil, avocado, raw nuts and seeds. I highly recommend having them only in your last meal of the day, your dinner meal, not all through the day. What else? That's everything on my list for what to include. Well, no, it's actually not. I also have, I did some digging before this call because I was kind of getting down like a rabbit hole as I was prepping for this. And I found a whole list of foods that help boost your progesterone levels naturally and foods that have estrogen in them. So you can include these foods as you start noticing symptoms or even before, including more of these foods. And I'm not saying to like, this is the thing people don't always understand. I'm not saying to make these like your do or die, only eat these foods, but just rotating a healthy rotation of these foods on like a daily or weekly basis will give your body a nice balanced nutritional profile. So your body, you can't eat, there's no progesterone in food. No food has that, but your body produces it when certain foods and nutrients support your body. So you want zinc, vitamin C, magnesium, B vitamins. Those, when you have enough of them, will help your body naturally produce more progesterone. So zinc, best sources of zinc are like grass-fed, grass-finished beef, raw pumpkin seeds, eggs, chickpeas, lentils, cashews, even shellfish, which you know I'm not like a huge shellfish person, but shellfish has it too. Vitamin C, kind of obvious, citrus, strawberries, kiwi, parsley, biggest sources of vitamin C you're going to find, peppers, broccoli, all the things you should be hopefully including more of. Magnesium, dark leafy greens. Get those green juices in every day because they have everything in them. Dark leafy greens, bananas and dates are a phenomenal source of magnesium. Beans, whole grains. Let's see, B6 is the best B vitamin. And you're going to find that in chickpeas, in legumes, in peanuts, bananas. I have a list here. Bananas, potatoes, spinach, turkey, sunflower seeds. Those are all good sources of B6. And then lastly, the omega-3 fats. I've mentioned this already. That's like your cold press oils, extra virgin olive oil, raw seeds, raw nuts like walnuts. If you eat fish like salmon and like a clean white fish, all these foods have omega-3s. These should all be eaten at dinner time, not during the day. And then yams and sweet potatoes. You've probably heard of like that wild yam extract that a lot of women like put on their skin and stuff. It's great, by the way. But eating them has what's called diacin in it. And this is chemically very similar to progesterone in its makeup. And it's very prevalent in sweet potatoes and yams. So having like a sweet potato a day is probably amazing for your body. So I would just say start adding that, like make 6 sweet potatoes or 5 sweet potatoes on your Sunday and have them one each day at lunchtime. Be awesome for you for lots of reasons, for weight loss, just for your hormones. Now, estrogen containing foods, some people have to be careful with these. It depends on your body chemistry and what else you have going on. However, like I said, if you're just rotating and not like fixated on one kind of food, if you're actually rotating the kinds of foods you eat. Soy obviously contains estrogen. I am personally allergic to soy, and I feel like in this country we eat it incorrectly. We eat it as soy sauce. We eat it as like soy cheese and soy milk. That is not how you should eat soy. It's like, and that's why we have so many problems with it here. If you're going to get like organic edamame beans and you enjoy that, have at it. Other than that, I would say don't eat it. Chickpeas, lentils, beans, raw nuts and seeds, again, are good sources of estrogen. Most fruits, berries, peaches, pineapple, plums, pears, grapes, all good sources of estrogen in a natural form. Then broccoli, spinach, cabbage, kale, they all have that as well. Animal sources of estrogen include yogurt, eggs, cheese, and milk. So again, if you're going to get cheese, I highly recommend a grass milk, organic. If you can do a raw cheese, it's delicious and it's good for you. Same thing with yogurt. You don't want like a Dannon Light and Fit, or like a nice full fat, maybe like a Greek style, not sweetened organic yogurt. And these foods should be eaten later in the day. They're not a breakfast food. Dairy is never a breakfast and rarely at lunch. It should be like a late afternoon to evening kind of a food if you're going to eat it. Lastly, other foods are like whole grains do have estrogen in them. Whole grains being like quinoa, rice, oats, not like whole grain bread. Whole grain bread is just as refined, and I don't recommend that at all, especially at this phase of your life. But whole, actual cooked grains are fine in small amounts. Garlic, turmeric are good sources also. Let's see. I think I covered everything on the list I made. I did. So I talked a lot. We have 15 minutes left on the call. However, I don't mind staying longer if that doesn't give us enough time to answer all your questions if you have them. So the floor is yours. And now at this point, of course, also, if you don't want to talk about the topic at hand, you can also talk about products or other kinds of questions. Anything you need to talk about is fine.
I have a question.
Okay. Hello.
So, hey there. I'm sorry I kind of joined late, but I just wanted to confirm sweet potatoes are or are not good for you. And also, what is the latest time in the evening that I should be eating? And thank you.
Sure. Sweet potatoes are amazing for you if they're cooked properly, which is like baked or dry roasted. So you don't want to have them with butter or any kind of fat, but baked sweet potatoes you could have without any kind of restriction, as many days a week as you want and as many potatoes a week as you want. I just had 2 of them for lunch actually before this call. So you can't overdo them. They're amazing for you. They're good for your weight loss. They're good for your hormones. They're good for pretty much everything. And as far as how late you can eat, it kind of depends on what you're eating, number one, and what your goal is. So I don't put any kind of constraints on myself personally with how late I eat. Lots of times, as you guys know, if you've been here, I eat my dinner like in the wee hours, like 10, 11 o'clock at night, because it's when I finally get to sit down and enjoy my food. But I wouldn't say it's probably the healthiest thing to do. It's better to eat earlier so you sleep more soundly. And I would suggest probably not eating after 7 or 8 if you could.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I have a question regarding the sweet potatoes. I like to actually cut them up in slices and put them on a tray and cook them.
Mhm.
So if you mentioned
You broke up again, Bonnie. I think I lost you. I'm going to take a guess at what I think you were going to say, and then tell me if I'm wrong. I think you were going to say you slice them up and put them on a tray, and you want to know how to maybe to cook them without oil or anything.
no, I can cook them fine. It's like if I make them in advance, what do you do? Do you put them in the refrigerator and then warm them up again later? And does that make the quality less because you're doing that, or?
Yeah, I do. I do sometimes do that as well, and I will cut them. I will cook them on parchment paper without oil, and I save them in glass containers in my fridge. Sometimes I like them cold, and sometimes I'll just warm them up for a few minutes in the oven or toaster oven, and they taste totally fine. Are they as nutritious as when you first make them? Like anything else, you food prep? No. Are they still nutritious? Yes. Are they better than most foods you would eat? Yes. So I would say go for it.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Could you go over the food combining or what you had mentioned, not to combine?
Sure.
You mentioned not having dairy first thing in the morning, but then you also mentioned about food combining.
Yes, sure. So what I highly recommend, this is based on years of my personal experience and with my clients as well, and just how like our body chemistry works, is to eat from light to heavy every day. Light foods being low fat or fat free foods and water rich foods typically. So fruits, vegetables. You can also include in there like beans, whole grains, potatoes. I always recommend having fruits be the mainstay of your breakfast meal, whether it's in smoothie, juice, or fruit form, in large quantities. So not like an apple, like 3, 4, 5, 7 pieces of fruit, however you want to get those into your body. And it can be over the course of the morning or as a breakfast meal or a drink. Lunch should still be on the lower fat side, but at that point you can include, I would usually say, like steamed vegetables, dry roasted vegetables, potatoes, whole grains, hummus. If you do a no oil hummus, I have a recipe for that. Or beans like a lentil soup or a vegetable soup. That's a great thing. Those great foods to have for lunch. Also, usually safe to have an egg or two at lunchtime because they're lower in fat. Although I usually have them at dinner or like a late afternoon, but you can also have them if lunch is not too early in the day. Then once you start to include fat in your day, so if you decide you want to have fat at lunch, you want to have cheese, you want to have whatever at lunch, then from that point out, from the point of the day when you start including fat, now I recommend that to be at dinner, but if you decide to do it earlier, you shouldn't have any more fruit, with a very few exceptions, and I'll tell you them at the end. Once you include the fat, because fruit and fat digest at very different rates in your body. This is the problem the woman was having with flaxseed in the smoothie and the dairy in the morning. Fat can take anywhere from 2 to 6 hours to digest, which means it's sitting in your gut for a long time before it moves to the rest of your digestive tract. Fruit is in and out like in 35 minutes. So what happens is if you have them at the same time, the fruit's trying to move out, the fat's trying to stay in. This push and pull reaction happens in your gut, and you get bloating, gas, weight gain, the whole thing. So eating the typical foods together, like an apple and peanut butter, or nuts and dried fruit, or a trail mix or a granola bar, cause these problems for people all the time. And they don't realize it because they're not exactly unhealthy foods. They're just not the proper combinations for weight loss. Also, a lot of people that struggle with IBS don't realize that if they just combine foods properly and eat in the correct order of the day, their IBS symptoms will disappear. I've had that happen to like many, many, many of my clients over the years. So light to heavy, don't ever combine fruit with fat. So, and when you start to have your fat, ideally it would be in your dinner meal, and you would only combine that fat with other fat or starches or vegetables. Does that clarify?
Yeah, you go kind of fast, so
I do. I'm the worst. I know, I definitely do talk fast. But if you missed it, I could repeat anything. Was there anything that was unclear?
Okay. So breakfast is the smoothie and the juices, and you do your smoothies with the bananas that are frozen that you put.
Yes. Yep. There's never any fat, yogurt, protein powder, or anything in my smoothies. It's just fruit and greens and water. That's it. Sometimes dates if I want it sweeter.
Okay.
And they're large. So I have a large Vitamix, and I make the whole 64 ounces usually. And it's like 2 large mason jars full, and I'll drink that. I don't typically want it at breakfast. I typically don't want anything at breakfast. So I usually might not have it until maybe between 11 and 12, 11:30, something like that. And I will have them, and I'll just drink them at my desk or whatever. And that's usually my first meal of the day a lot of the time. If I don't just have straight fruit, which is my other meal, like I might just have like 4 or 5 mangoes or something. And that might be my breakfast or my first meal. So it's always just either straight fruit or like a smoothie or a fresh juice.
Okay.
And that's the best for your digestion. It'll also majorly help if you're not regular in eliminating. That's a major help with that. And just like if you haven't been here before, your colon should eliminate on a 24-hour cycle. So if you're eating 3 meals a day, that means you should be eliminating 3 times a day. Most people don't do that. And that's because of the lack of raw foods and fiber and water-rich foods or water.
Okay. And then you say, I pretty much only eat 2 meals a day. So,
okay.
So after that, then there would be a meal, and you mentioned either eggs or what, for lunch. Dinner, I got fat, starches, and veggies.
Well, if you don't typically eat 3 meals, then stick with your 2 meals. There's no benefit to having 3 if your body's already used to 2. It's actually better for you to have less big meals, but most people are used to having the structure of 3. The idea is that your early meals, whether they're breakfast or lunch or both, that they're lower fat. So it's the fruits, the vegetables, the beans, potatoes, or whole grains. And then dinner time is when you can add in your lean proteins, or if you're going to have dairy, if you're going to have eggs, if you're going to have fat like avocado and olive oil and things like that. That would be your dinner meal.
Okay. Okay.
I think I saw a comment. Oh, Stacy, you're welcome. I'm glad you. I thought about you when I planned this topic because we talked about this last time. So I hope I answered your questions. Well, we have 8 minutes left. If there's anything else burning in anybody's minds. I don't know if you guys noticed, we launched a new website yesterday. A whole new branding, whole new everything. It's still getting the bugs tweaked. There's still some things that are amiss. The next few days, we're going to be getting some bugs not worked out, but it's pretty cool. It looks really nice.
Hi, Lisa. It's Lori. Hi. I remember you mentioned that like a hormone reset would be coming out maybe in the fall. Any word on any like timing on that or?
Coming out before that is going to be our gut reset and gut restore system. That's coming first. That will definitely be, well, it's planned to get that out before the new year, we hope. And then coming into the new year, my personal goal is to get the hormone reset up next. So I'm hoping for January. We did this whole pivot with our branding. So it put the product development on hold for a little while.
Okay.
So, but it definitely is coming. Everyone wants it. It's coming. But I am going to have a test group for that. So if any of you women fall into the 40 to like 55 range or even beyond and want to test a hormone reset, send me an email, lisatesta@rawgeneration.com, and I'll put you on the list to be a tester if you want to test the product. So,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
yep. I'll put my email in the box for you guys too.
I have one last question. I don't want to be a question hog, but
And the space is yours.
what if you, I mean, like in the mornings, I generally have like a cup of soy milk with my Orgain coffee protein, because it's got a little bit of caffeine that I need. But what kind of milk, if you're saying, soy's not the best and you're saying avoid things with nuts, it's how I'm interpreting, what type of milk should I be using in the mornings? Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, the first thing I would suggest, I'm not sure what your age is or what your goals are. I wouldn't recommend having the protein first thing in the morning. I would recommend having it later in the day. That's considered a heavy food. So I'm not sure if that's going to work with your lifestyle, but my strong recommendation would be to have that later in the day. That aside, I would not do soy milk. I would say you could, I love the milk. They have like a milk oat milk. Or if you're having it later in the day, you could have the milk, nut milk. They have just nuts and water. There's also a brand called Elmhurst and a brand called Three Trees. Those three brands are totally clean. They're just nuts and water or oats and water. I love all three of them. Or you could do like an organic, if you have access to raw milk or whole milk, grass-fed milk, you could do that too, unless you're trying to stay dairy free. So it kind of depends on what your personal goal is.
Thank you. Yes, I'm vegan, so I stay dairy free.
Okay, then I would highly recommend then either the oat or the nut milks by Malk, Elmhurst, or Three Trees, and having it ideally later in the day. However, if you're going to keep it in the morning, the oat milk would be your best bet because it's the least fat.
Gotcha. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Great questions, you guys. Sometimes these small calls are nice and I get to answer all your questions like in length. Okay, the last call, otherwise I'm going to end this. Anybody else have anything they want to ask? Okay, well, we have these every month, like I said. So the next one is, what is November? I think it's November 5th, I want to say. Hold on, let me check. Next call, November 5th, 1 p.m. EST. You'll definitely get an email and a text with a link to join. And as always, if you have thoughts or topics you'd like me to go into or cover, just shoot me an email. I put the email in the little message box here for the hormone reset if you want to be a part of that when I get to it. But if you have topics you want me to cover, I'm happy to. I always entertain the ideas you guys send. We could do that. And that's it, basically. So I hope you have a great month until then. And I love when you guys come. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Thanks.
You're welcome.